The recent episode of the Amazing Digital Circus focused mostly on Gangle, but we also got a lot of insight into the life of Ragatha, which is interesting because according to series creator Gooseworks, the next episode we get is going to be very Ragatha focused. So let's talk about everything we learned about Ragatha in episode 4 and how that sets us up for episode 5. My name is Deep in the Box, you may also call me Jackcut, and if you don't get that joke, you must be new here, so click that subscribe button. Now, when the show first began, Ragatha seemed like the most well-adjusted character. She was calm and polite, and more than just helpful, but rather, Ragatha had really become the group mother or older sister, with Pomni pointing Gangle to her instead of trying to help Gangle herself. After episode 4, however, it seems like all she really has going for her is her composure, and when she doesn't have that, we see what she's really thinking underneath it all. And what's interesting is she might be hiding what makes her actually relatable to the others. Despite that usual composure, the recent episode had Ragatha getting hit in the face by Spudsy's signature stupid sauce. The sauce that makes you stupid, according to an NPC talking to Pomni in the episode. This caused Ragatha to start acting stupid, and when she does that, we see that all she's really doing is having a slowed down thinking process, saying what she thinks before she has time to filter it out. Everything she says seems to be a real thought and impulse that Ragatha would have in her sober state, but here she's just saying them before she has a chance to think it through. This was most obvious when Ragatha told Gangle that she didn't like the way she was acting with her smiling mask on, after which she questions if that was rude to say. It gives the impression that she normally filters her thoughts, and that she is aware that the initial thought that she has is often very rude. Gangle has noticed this in Ragatha's general behavior, and the stupid sauce really just confirmed it for her. Hence why Gangle doesn't like to go to Ragatha for therapy the way Pomni expects her to. All this proved was that this was Ragatha's real feelings, and the stupid sauce really just brought it out. In addition to this, a lot of fans believe that Ragatha's statements while on the stupid sauce also paints her as coming from a wealthy family with high social standards. While in this state, she mentions missing her horses and feeling pressured by having tea parties and dancing lessons. She also mentioned boxes falling on her, which I don't really get, but I've seen a few comments saying that this is actually a reference to the movie that Raggedy Ann comes from.
Packages landing on my head, tea parties, dancing lessons.
That being said, she does have to have a real life before this game, and it would make more sense that this is a reference to her real life before entering the circus, with the joke being that it happens to match the story of Raggedy Andy, which Ragatha is based off of. If Ragatha really did come from a rather rich lifestyle, that would make Ragatha the reverse of what we'd call a rag to riches story, or rather a riches to rag story, taking her from her place as someone who is rich and very well to do and making her a literal ragdoll. If she did grow up with fancy tea parties, it seems that Ragatha would be taught how to filter her thoughts in order to be polite company. The tea party reference gives a very strong indication that she came from a place with older ideas on how women should talk and act, with the focus being on making yourself as polite as possible. In order to get what she wanted from her parents and the world at large then, Ragatha would have to learn how to work with people while also not being too honest about her feelings and desires. The downside to this is she can be seen as manipulative or at the very least hard to connect with, because while her actions can be sincere, they are also calculated. And let's make it clear, the show seems to indicate that it's not very sincere at all. The darkest thing I've seen a commenter suggest on this episode is that in order to escape this kind of pressure from her home life, Ragatha would turn to abusing substances to make her not sober, similar to the super sauce in the episode. The whole point of the stupid sauce was it was supposed to turn Ragatha into the kind of stereotype for a fast food employee who goes to work not sober, with Gangle even making a reference to her not huffing paint at the designated break time. I don't want to over-infer, but when I heard it suggested that Ragatha may have abused substances in her life before the circus, it did make me think about how Ragatha approached the experience in the game. Ragatha seemed to enjoy the experience of the stupid sauce, and it is something that is supposed to be enjoyable, but with it being something she didn't expect, a lot of people think she went through this sort of experience before and basically just leaned into it. The idea here is that if she had never abused a real-life stupid sauce, she'd feel more poisoned and would be freaking out. However, we can't overlook the possibility that this wasn't even on the mind of Gooseworks when they were writing the episode, and they were just writing a funny Ragatha scene where she is being more honest. But for me, it's little possibilities like this that make the fandom so interesting. So many shows let certain ideas exist in a vague headcanon space where things aren't really confirmed but could definitely still be true. The next episode may tell us whether or not Ragatha has abused stupid sauce in real life, but even if they don't address it, there can always be the possibility that she has without it ever being explored in the show in depth. It's the kind of special thing that only exists in shows where there's so much stuff going on in the background that you're able to infer on, that it creates an entire extra layer of things that may not necessarily have been part of the writer's intentions, but that seem to fit so well, at least for now. The most shocking thing to me is that while on this stupid sauce, Ragatha admits that she hates Jax, but that she wants Jax to like her. Part of this probably says a lot about her social upbringing, and it's part of what makes her such a scary friend. Her goal seems to be to maintain control as a calm, polite authority, and that includes over the people that she hates. If she could get Jax to act nice, she would probably treat him nicely as well, but deep down, she may still hate him. In fact, she may dislike or even outright hate people who don't actually do anything wrong to her or to the others. She may even hate some of the others simply for being annoying or aggressive. And one thing Gangle may have got Pomni wondering is if Ragatha has really forgiven her for abandoning her back in episode 1. Gangle likely planted the seed at least that Pomni can't trust what Ragatha says or does, and that might end up stinging after Pomni put so much faith in her for setting up Kaufmo's funeral. It was because of this that Pomni felt like she may be able to make a family in the circus, but she may now be doubting if Ragatha really even likes her, let alone has forgiven her. This is a lot of information to set up Ragatha for her own focal episode, where, like Gangle and Kinger before her, she may have to address some of her internal issues. The last episode had Zubul feeling unsure about Ragatha, and now maybe Pomni too, with there being artwork released after the episode that showed Gangle was drawing Pomni, Gangle, and Zubul together, but not Ragatha. Even with how aggressive and rough around the edges the others can be, it would be sad if Ragatha found herself being the loneliest person in the digital circus, with her episode focusing on how she actually has no friends, despite being the one who tries to connect the most with everyone else. If Pomni, Zubul, and Gangle all team up, that would really just leave Kinger, who Ragatha I imagine feels more like she's babysitting, as well as Jax, who she also feels like she's babysitting, but in a very different way with his outbursts and shenanigans. I'd even enjoy it if there was no actual adventure for them to go on, and instead we get a kind of day in the life around the circus where Ragatha just tries to interact with everyone, and we see how this pattern of behavior of hers ends up negatively impacting every experience. The show is really about how these characters' personal issues make them get close to abstracting and becoming giant monsters, and I think an episode dealing with Ragatha's isolation and nearly abstracting in the circus again could be very interesting. And then she could realize that in return, she doesn't actually want to be around any of them. That she has written them all off as burdens that she has to take care of instead of people who she can rely on and who give her energy. But of course, no one's story has to end there. So far, Pomni has become a figure that can comfort both Kinger and Gangle, changing the way they interact with the circus. So why can't the same happen for Ragatha? Me personally, it seems like that kind of story should be saved for the end, as it really was set up in the pilot with Pomni abandoning Ragatha and feeling bad about it. But what do you guys think? Let me know what you expect from Ragatha's episode in the comments down below, and if you haven't seen it, I'm once again asking you to watch my Disney Atlantis breakdown, where we talk about the real-life mythology surrounding Atlantis. Trust me, even if you don't like the movie itself, if you can make it through to the end, you can learn a lot of interesting stuff. See you guys there.